Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Mind, Your Reality, Your Results. We're a weekly show where I bring in experts on the subject matter of mindset that can help give you tools and tricks to really help you have an amazing mindset and get you ultimately the results that you want. If you haven't met me before, my name is Leah Fink. I'm the founder and owner of All Thrive, where we deliver amazing workshops that help people understand themselves better, have amazing relationships, and ultimately change their lives. If you have any comments or questions, we would love to have you interact with us today. Please feel free to put them in the comments and we will answer them as I see them. If you're watching this show after the show is live, please also feel free to put your comments and questions in there because we'll be watching and we'll be able to get back to you with the answers you're hoping for. That all said, I am super excited today to welcome our guest, Rudy Chavarria. Don't want to mispronounce that, Junior. Thanks so much for being here, Rudy.
Of course. Excited about this. Thank you for having me.
Well, I certainly enjoyed it when we connected before, and I'm really excited for you to be able to share with us today. So do you want to start by introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about your experience and why you're so great at talking about industry here?
I actually started out in the 90s, 93, before we had the internet, and started out with an independent record company in Southern California and Orange County, and I signed a lot of ska punk bands, and I ended up having an independent record label called Rude Records, had major distribution all across the United States, had a great distributor at the time, and so I had my records in different independent record companies, record stores, retailers, also Tower Records, Music Plus, and didn't make any money. Had all the bands touring and just got tired of bands calling me drunk on the road, on tour, arguing about certain things. And so I decided to shut that down. And long story short, other labels started calling me and saying, we saw your flyers, your stickers, your posters everywhere around Orange County, LA County. Will you do that for us? One of my first contacts was a man named Danny Sims. And he actually discovered Bob Marley in '67 and signed him to a deal, and ended up selling Bob Marley to Chris Blackwell of Island Records in '72. And Danny had over 250 songs that had never been released by Bob Marley. And Danny asked me for help, and I just became a marketer, just like that. And no education in it. And just a lot of common sense, definitely, and a lot of drive, and a lot of passion for it, and the love of music. And that's what actually really propelled me into getting into marketing. And then after a few Bob Marley records, I got a phone call from other record companies asking me to do the same for their records, and we would send the CDs, back then CDs, to college radio stations and newspapers, where I had built a database of college radio stations and newspapers throughout Canada and the United States, and at the time retail stores on college campuses. I had street teams on colleges. I just had it locked down and became known as the college guy. And I just networked, always smiled, always was passionate, always energetic. And I've had clients tell me the reason why we hired you, Rudy, is your passion for what it is we're trying to accomplish. And yeah, it's all business, but it's more about, what can we do here? Let's think about this. And the money for me always came secondary. And I think that's why my clients have told me that's why we hired you. It wasn't always about the dollar. It was always about making things work. And then once the first trial was successful, of course, then I'd say, okay, well, now you're going to pay me more. And yeah, so fast forward from marketing, I had college students always working for me as interns. From interns, they turn into employees. And even when we were doing our national campaigns, we hired college students. We advertised through college radio stations and college newspapers. We're looking for street team people on campus, and along the way, I found out that college students had a lot of, they just didn't know what they didn't know. And a lot of questions, a lot of misconceptions that once they got a college degree, they'd get a good job, especially in the industry, or they had a college degree, they'd they'd get a good job and they'd be able to ask for a raise in 6 months. Well, a hard reality for a lot of them that no, it doesn't work that way. You got to start at the bottom. You got to pay your dues, and that's what made me formulate or start College Web Mentor. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at now. Where I'm at now. So yeah.
Well, definitely a broad range of experience of where you got to where you were, and some interesting pieces along the way. So at what point in your journey was it, when you suddenly became a marketer, that you started looking at how to get into industry? And what would you suggest as people start that journey as some tips for how to get into industry?
Yeah, I figured out that there is no right way to get into the industry. And I've learned over the years there's no right way to get into any industry, frankly. Unless, of course, if you're going to become a doctor or a dentist or a lawyer, there are certain protocols. But when you're going into the entertainment industry, and so much of the past that you study or read about people who've been successful in the entertainment industry, from Richard Branson to um, David Geffen, Irving Azoff, all these people who had no college education, or some of them may have. I know David Geffen didn't, but it's the will to succeed. It's really a burning desire to succeed, and the bottom line is you figure out how to go over the wall, under the wall, around the wall, punch a hole through the wall. And for me, to answer that question, I'll tell you really how I really got started in the industry. Working for A&M Records, which is a very popular record company in the 60s and 70s, formed by Herb Alpert and Jerry Moss. A&M Records brought you Peter Frampton. They brought you the Carpenters, the Police, Cat Stevens. They were just huge. And the company was sold, I think, in the 90s, I believe, late 90s, for, I think, $550 million. But that's really how I got started in the industry. I was working at Home Depot. I was 20 years old. I dropped out of college because I didn't know why I was there. I'm bored out of my mind. And after working at Home Depot, there was an opportunity where I went to, actually during working for Home Depot, I went to lunch with a friend of mine. And she was a student at UCLA studying psychology. And she and I were eating lunch, and she said, Rudy, if you want to be in the industry, what are you doing working at Home Depot? And it's just like, duh, yeah, of course. What am I doing here? So I quit Home Depot. I got a job at Chili's restaurant and started out as busing and then went into food serving. So this way it allowed me the time to work during the day to find a job in the industry, whether it's at a record company or a publishing company or anything, just anything I can get my hands onto. And again, I didn't have a college degree. So right there at that point is when I had to start to figure out, how am I going to get into this industry? I didn't have any parents that were in the industry, no family, no connections at all. So I would drive when I'd get out of work at Chili's, like at 1 a.m. from food serving. And I would drive from Walnut, which is where I was born and raised, Walnut, California. And I would drive to Hollywood, 40-minute drive. And I would go from gate to gate of every major record label or every recording studio in Hollywood. And I would stand out by the gate and talk to the security guards. And this is really how I got in. I was making a way. I didn't know what I was going after. And I didn't know how I was going to get in, but I knew I was going to get in. And I think that's key whenever you go for any goal. You have to just have the mindset of, I'm going to get in. End of story. How I get there, I don't know yet, and it doesn't matter. The point is I'm going to get in. And one night, I went to A&M Records, the studios, and went to the gate, And I'd been there a couple times before, and I would walk up to the gate and I would say, hello. And the security guards would walk up to the gate, can we help you? Kind of like, who's this young kid? And I'm like, yeah, my name's Rudy, and I really want to get into the industry, but I just don't really know how. And they would look at me like, well, showing up here at 2 a.m, how is that supposed to help you? And they're like, well, all right, well, we can't help you, but you can't hang around here. Okay. And so I would leave, and then I would come back again the following weekend, and hey, and they'd either be the same security guard or a different one, and they'd be like, can I help you? Yeah, my name's Rudy, and I'm trying to get into the industry, applying different jobs. And okay, well, you can't hang out here. Okay. And then that was on a Friday night. I went back on a Saturday night after work, and security guard comes up, and he looks at me like, I just told you can't hang out here. I'm like, yeah, I just figured I'd come by. But this time, and this is where it's key to breaking into any industry, and I tell my interns this too. You have to have your eyes wide open. You have to think out of the box creatively. For me, creativity, just like when Einstein says creativity is more important than knowledge, this is what he's talking about. So it was a Saturday night, 2:30 in the morning. I'm standing at the gate. Security guard comes up. Same guy, looks kind of frustrated and really, frankly, pissed off that I'm there again. And he walks up, and I'm like, yeah, you saw me last night. And he just kind of looked at me like, okay, this guy's not going away. And he's like, well, still, there's nothing I can do to help you. I'm like, all right, well, thanks a lot, man. He's like, all right, have a good night. And I was very energetic, very happy, very appreciative that he even spoke to me. So there was that element of respect that I showed a security guard. And that's another key thing. I showed this person respect. I didn't like, oh, you're just a security guard. I don't need to talk to you. I need to talk to somebody that you're connected to. I need you to give me a name. No, I treated this security guard like he was the boss, which frankly, he was that night. He could call the police and have me pulled out of there. And that's key too, is the ability to recognize who you're speaking to and show that respect, because they will show it back to you. The whole, just respect as a human being. And so this is the key though. When he walked up, he had a cup of coffee in his hand. So the following weekend, I went back on Friday. But this time when I went back at 2 a.m, I had 4 cups of coffee and a box of donuts. And that's what got me in. That's all it took. And I showed up to the gate, and he walked up and he looked at me, and I said, remember me? And he looked at me like, he smiled like, okay, I see what you're doing. He smiled and he goes, yeah. I'm like, well, I just figured I'd bring you some coffee and donuts, just for talking to me. Appreciate it. And he looked at me and he goes, all right. So he opens the gate. I hand him the 4 cups of coffee, and by that time, all of the security guards start walking up. I'm like, hey, what's this? And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I just figured you guys might need it. You got a long night. They're like, wow, hey, man, that's cool. Right on. And all right, well, listen, you guys have a good night. I didn't ask him for anything. I just dropped off my gift and I left. And then the following night on Saturday, when I went back, I did it again. 4 cups of coffee and a box of donuts. And this time the security guard, there was a new security guard. He walks up to the gate and he looks at me. And the guy from the day before, that Friday night, he says, let him in. Let him in. He's cool. And I was in. And from that little gesture of me just being observant, being creative, being respectful, and thinking, what do these guys need? Coffee and donuts to keep them up for the rest of the night. That genuine approach was visible to these men. And every time I showed up with coffee and donuts, and they always opened the gate and they let me walk in. And they closed the gate behind me, and I would sit there and I would frankly just BS with them for 3 or 4 hours and just talk to them. And then it got to the point where after a month, I was going on the rounds of the entire place. I went into Herb Albert's office. I went into Jerry Moss's. I went into all of the studios, just followed him, just walked around and looked. and I was in. And then about a month and a half later, a guy named Henry, I was sitting there eating donuts and drinking coffee with these guys, and Henry said to me, "You still looking to work here, Rudy?" And I was in, and I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay." And he takes a piece of paper and he writes down this guy's name, Shelly Yawkis, writes down the phone number, and he writes down the time. And he says, "You need to call here on Thursday at 2:30. That's when he takes a break. He goes, "Make sure you call because they're looking to hire somebody here at the studio." And I'm like, "Great." Sure enough, on Thursday at 2:30, I was waiting by the phone. 2:30 came, I picked it up, dialed it, and he answered. He's like, "Shelly." I'm like, "Hey, Shelly, my name's Rudy Chavarria. I got your name and phone number from Henry, the security guard. He told me you're hiring for somebody as a studio runner." And he goes, "Can you be here in 45 minutes?" And I'm in Walnut, which is 45 minutes, And I said, "Absolutely." He goes, "Great, I'll see you then." He hung up on me. I jumped in the car and drove out to Hollywood. And and he says, I got in. So Henry walked me to where I was supposed to be. And it was a quick little interview. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Let me finish, please. It was a quick little interview. And he said, "When can you start?" And I said, "When do you want me to start?" And he said, "You can start now by taking me to the DMV." And I said, "Great." So I took him to the DMV, and that was it. I was in. That's how I got started. It wasn't an application. It wasn't my past experience. It was none of that. It was only from somebody who said, "This guy Rudy, and he's a cool dude." And Shelly knew all about me, so that's why when I called, he's like, "Yeah, Henry told me about you." And that's when he said, "Can you be here in 45 minutes?" And I said, "Absolutely." And so another key thing too is breaking in. You always have to say yes. Here's another story. When I got the campaign for the movie The Passion of the Christ, that was my first major motion picture marketing through college campuses across the United States, in the top 75 cities. I can't remember where I read this, but sometimes you just have to say yes and you figure it out later on. And so I got a phone call about working the movie The Passion of the Christ. Of course, they didn't tell me it. They just said, "Hey, we heard you're a great college guy, blah, blah, blah. Can you put together a proposal for us? It's for this movie that's coming out in 2004. We want to target all the major cities, both secular and faith-based." Absolutely. So I put it together in August. I called them back after I sent it, and they said, "Great, we got it. We'll get back to you." Okay, I called them a week later. They had said, "We're still thinking about it. We'll let you know." I called them a week later. November, I only called twice that month. December, I only called once. January, I only called once. And finally, it was in February the 1st. They had called me and said, "Hey, Rudy, just want to let you," call me on a Sunday. "Hey, Rudy, just want to let you know, you got the gig. You're going to start on Monday. We're FedExing you your check, and we're FedExing you all the materials that you need. Except, are you going to have a problem? Everything you said you can do in 3 months, you got to do in 2 weeks. Is that a problem?" "No, not at all. Not at all." "Great, great, perfect." So that's my point too. Like when Shelly at A&M said, "Can you be here in 45 minutes?" I wasn't, "Well, I live kind of far. I live in Orange County." I was like, "Yes, absolutely. Not a problem." And then fast forward to working The Passion of the Christ. When they said, "What you said you'll do in 3 months, can you do in 2 weeks?" "Absolutely. Not a problem." That's what people want to hear. So this way they can go off and do their job. They hire somebody who's capable, somebody who's like, "Yes, not a problem. Glass is half full. It's never half empty." That's what you want to hear. That's what they want to hear. So they don't have to worry about you. And when I said that, "Yes, absolutely, no problem," they said, "Okay, one last question. Do you have a problem marketing a movie called The Passion of the Christ?" And at the time, nobody wanted to touch the movie because it was apparently very anti-Semitic when it came out, and no movie theaters even picked it up. And again, I said, "Not a problem." Not a problem. Great. Okay, let us know when everything arrives, and if we need anything from you, we'll call you. Perfect. I hung up the phone, and I had already pre-interviewed everybody that I was going to hire to make this happen. And I called everybody on that Sunday right after I got off the phone, and I said, "It's me. We start tomorrow. Be prepared for 16-hour days. Are you okay with that?" And everybody that said no, I can't do that. No problem. I just didn't hire them. I needed people that were going to be just like me. Yes, no problem. We'll make it happen. So everybody that gave me the same response as I gave to my boss are the people that I hired, and that's how I made it work. That's how I made the whole campaign take place. It came out on the 24th of February, and it just took off, and that is what made my movie marketing career take off. Because after that, then Disney called and MGM called, and it's that attitude of like, to get back to what this question is about, how do you break in? It's that mindset of like, I don't give a damn how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. And just recently, now at my age, I've realized that, yeah, once you put your foot forward, whether it's the God, or whatever it is, something comes out of the ground and surrounds you, and it helps push you forward, and it bulldozes everything out of the way that will stand in your way, as long as you have the mindset to persevere. So yeah, that's pretty much how I got started and how I still move forward. So yeah.
That is such a cool story. And as I was listening, I was thinking how applicable it is to different parts of entrepreneurship, where you're maybe not breaking into an industry as in not just starting something, but also, if you're reaching out to an industry and asking, that kind of cold calling, meeting new contacts, what you do,
Yes.
it's all the same mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've learned that, looking back, everything that I've always wanted, I've gotten. And not to sound conceited or big-headed, but I think, yeah, of course, whether it's me or you or anybody else, whatever that person wants, and they tell me, yeah, I got it, it's like, that's cool. Because there's so many obstacles, not only physical, but so many obstacles mentally. And there isn't a day that goes by where I don't feel like self-doubt, and I don't feel like, oh, can I do this? Maybe I can't do this. But I'm working on a book right now that is based on the fact of, when someone gets pushed to the point of breaking, you either break, or you either just say, screw it, and you just jump. You jump in. Whether it's the cliff diving, you're standing up there and you look down and you're like, what the heck am I doing here? This is crazy. Or you're standing tandem getting ready to jump out of a plane to skydive for the first time, and you look out and you're like, what am I doing here? This is ridiculous. And then you just, screw it. You just jump. Yeah, it again goes back down to that mindset, being able to just say screw it and just jump. So
yeah, you could have leant backwards into that plane and got nothing out of that experience. You would have gone back to the ground the boring way.
Yeah. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Any industry, I think, needs that. So.
And the other piece I especially liked, which I think is super relevant right now for so many industries and for so many people, in your case, they were security guards, but most industries have a gatekeeper, or most
Absolutely.
Businesses that you're trying to reach have a gatekeeper. Do you have any quick suggestions? Because I realize we're running a bit shy on time, but realizing, we're a little bit more digital now, some companies might not have physical offices. Is there a way you would recommend approaching gatekeepers that would, have that same flair, that same feel, without maybe physically being able to bribe them with some coffee?
Absolutely. Two things. First is obviously social media. There are so many influences in social media. If you really wanted one, you would do due diligence and find out what makes that influencer or that person you're trying to contact um, tick, what makes them, what they like in life. Find that out, and then contact them. Now, I don't mean contact them as in direct message me. I mean, shoot a video on your phone and tell them, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm doing, and I'd like to know if I can contact you or do something. And do like a mock interview of yourself and send it to that person. If we're talking about getting into a job, use video. Video is so powerful. Of course, there's podcasts and there's audio, but video is so much more and closest to the real thing of standing on the other side of a gate handing somebody donuts. It really is, because you're seeing that person, you're watching their facial expressions, their body language. And when you see somebody, you can tell whether or not they're just BSing you or they're really, really legitimate and giving you the real deal. So that would be my advice is, of course, if you can't do the donuts and coffee through the gate, use video, use what is available now when technology is this, and then back it up with stuff that you've done before. So this way, once they see your intro video, you can include, hey, this is the stuff that I've done before. And that goes with me even getting new clients, me sending a video like this and then saying attached in this email are other letters of recommendation from Disney, from the Duplass brothers, from Netflix, and then some campaign case studies. So this way, it's not just the video, but something that backs up what it is you're talking about yourself. So it's immediate for that person who's the gatekeeper, the yes person, to say, okay, this person's cool. I'm going to click on all their stuff. And if you notice, whether it's you, if you're the gatekeeper, you really don't have a lot of time to look through everything. You just want to make sure that this person's legitimate. So you look through maybe the first video, you look through the case study, and you just glance quickly because you've got a lot of stuff to do with your day. But at least they provide it to you. So that's another tip, is shoot the video and then shoot all the stuff that's going to back up what it is you're saying. Yeah.
Amazing. And that is so accessible nowadays. And obviously we are on video right now for that very reason. It's so easy for people to be able to engage with. So I love that. I mean, thank you so much for this. And sure. I know now you're going obviously a bit of a different direction with College Web Mentor and how you're supporting youth through that. What would you like people to do? If they want to contact you, are you looking for mentors? Is there something you want to share with people here?
Yeah, we're looking for coaches now that, or people that want to be mentors and learn how to become coaches with their own life stories that they feel like, wow, I wish somebody told me this in my ladder of life. If somebody would have told me this when I was 18 in my ladder of life, I could have skipped steps 19 to 25 because I had a mentor, and rather than having to go through every year of my life figuring things out. So we're looking for mentors, coaches. I can be contacted at Rudy at collegewebmentor.com. And we're also looking, now we have services available for individual coaches and such like that. But looking to really get into helping students. And for me, if I may take a little bit more, for me, it's because when I was 22 years old, I had a friend of mine who actually introduced me into PCs, and this was in 1990. I bought my first Apple Macintosh from him, and he, unfortunately, he took his own life. He was a college student at Cal Poly Pomona, best friend of mine, and so that is like a desire in me. I'm still reaching to heal myself of his loss, because he was so stressed out about school. He was going into something that he wanted to do, but his parents did not want him to do it. And so he was conflicted. His fiance wanted him to do what his parents wanted to do, and he just got tired and took his own life. And now with, obviously with COVID and more pressure being put on high school students and suicide rates going up like crazy, I've got this passion in me, but if I can help just one student came up to me and said, I was really messed up at this point, but just the help of the videos that I saw of you really made me think, hey, I can do this. Then that's good enough for me. And so it is a personal thing for me. But to answer your question, we're looking for people with the same kind of passion, the same type of, I want to give back, pay it forward. So, yeah.
Amazing. Well, it also sounds like I would encourage any student out there or anyone with a student that might be looking for some support to please
Absolutely.
also check out College Web Mentor. So, and just so you know, we'll make sure that Rudy's contact information all gets into the chat there, website and email and everything. So if you do want to contact him, you will be able to.
Yeah. I'm still doing consulting for marketing, but that's all, just consulting. People come to me and say, hey, can you help us out here? What do you think about this? This is what we're doing. What do you think? I'll consult on that, but I don't put together teams anymore. But yeah, I still have a passion for marketing things. If someone comes to me and say, hey, we're thinking about this. What do you think about this? I think that's rad. It's brilliant. I'll go for it. And so, yeah, it's great.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate it. I'm sure lots of other people have really enjoyed this as well, because your story is so fascinating and so helpful to so many of us who are looking for those clever ways or what we need to do to get those new contacts in industry. So thank you so much. And thanks to everyone for watching.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.